Okay, so we're going to wire up some 24 volt 4 colour LEDs. They've already been cut to length, and you'll see that you cut through the middle of the section. Okay, now what we've got to do is we've got to tin all of the ends of this, but first of all we've got to get the backing off the end, but careful not to peel it back too far. I've actually got to remove the actual sticky, which is a bit fiddly, from the back, otherwise we'll just burn it with the solder. So we peel that back and bend it. I've put some insulating tape on here just to try and save the life of the tape a little bit, because obviously we're going to need to stick this where it's going to end up. So I've got a wooden board just to protect my desk, and I'll stick the section down with sellotape, just tape, and I've taken it as close as I can so that I'm not going to get the solder near it. I've got my iron set at 405 degrees C, so we need to tin each one of these. Important thing when you're doing any soldering is that you don't heat the work up too much. We need enough heat for the solder to flow, and I always put a little bit of solder on the iron, which aids the conduction with the material. Okay, now we've got to prepare the ends. I've been doing this in a particular pattern to make it as comfortable. One of my rules about any work you do like this, you've got to be as comfortable as you can be. So this is coiled this way. I want that, when I connect it, to be coiled in the same direction. So now I'm going to prepare the ends of this. I'm doing these not too short, not too long. Don't get it right every time, but you don't want too much, and you need the lengths to be identical if at all possible, so that the ribbon cable is square when you've connected them all up and not at some funny angle. So I'm going to tin the ends of these, and I've been doing this a long time, and some people might find my method somewhat unconventional, but it's my third hand, my knees. Notice that I twist the ends before I tin it every time, so that you don't get any splaying when you attach it to the piece. Okay, so I've got all my ends tinned. As I said earlier, I've got this in line. We want that all nice and rolled out when it gets fitted, so it's nice and flat. And we need to keep it in line, and it's always a bit fiddly, and we don't want to melt anything in the process. Okay. This is actually about my 20th one of these I've done, and I kind of improved the process as I went along. And if you notice when I did it, there's a good joint knot. Let's have a little bit more solder on that one. Okay, what I haven't said when I've done this, I'm right-handed, almost, I'm semi-ambidextrous, but I'm working from left to right. If I'd worked from right to left, I'd be getting in my own way. so I'm working away from the first one I put on to make it easier. Okay, now I've wired it. I'm going to shrink wrap that so it looks nice and neat, but I want to make sure that my connections are good before I shrink wrap it, so I don't have to cut the shrink wrap off. So I'm just going to strip the ends. Okay, I've got a 24 volt supply here. It's actually a PoE for network equipment, doesn't really matter. I've got 24 volt supply and I've got a little block just so we can test that our wiring has worked. So there we've got some white, now the blue, red, and finally the green. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to shrink wrap. I've got a little mark on here, so I do them all roughly the same length, which you can't see. Cut the shrink wrap off. Take that off the unit. Slide the shrink wrap over. So I'm going to put the backing back on. And this is actually a rework gun, which I've got at 120 degrees on the shrink wrap, so we get a nice neat finish and we're insulated. Okay, shrink wrap, press the backing back on as best it will go since it's been peeled once, and we'll retest it just to make sure. Only 24 volts, so DC, so we're not really going to hurt ourselves. Job done.